Most men will never say this out loud, but the moment they see the words single mother, something shifts inside them. Not hatred, not judgment, something colder and quieter. Calculation, self-preservation, survival. And the truth behind it isn't emotional, it isn't cruel, it's brutally practical. Modern men are done pretending they don't understand the cost of stepping into a life that was already built without them. They've watched it happen too many times. Friends who tried to be the good guy, the stable guy, the understanding guy. Men who stepped into ready-made families believing effort would earn them belonging, believing love would balance sacrifice, believing patience would eventually turn into partnership. What they saw instead changed everything. They saw men pour time, money, energy, and emotional labor into relationships where they never had real authority, real priority, or real security. They saw men adapt to schedules they didn't create, rules they didn't set, and expectations they were never allowed to negotiate. They saw men become helpers, providers, emotional shock absorbers, but never fully partners. And they took notes. This is why dating feels different now. Men are no longer walking into relationships blind. They are observant, cautious, strategic. They think long before they feel. And when they see a situation where their needs will always come second, where their voice won't carry weight, where their presence won't actually change the structure of the relationship, they quietly opt out. Not out of cruelty, out of clarity. A modern man doesn't want to audition for a role someone else abandoned. He doesn't want to inherit unresolved dynamics, ongoing conflicts, and emotional history that has nothing to do with him but will still shape his daily life. He doesn't want to step into a system already running at full speed and be expected to keep up without ever steering. And that's exactly what dating a single mother feels like to many men from the very beginning. Before love, before attachment, before commitment, there is pressure in the air immediately, a weight he feels without anyone explaining it. Plans are fragile, time is scarce, flexibility disappears fast. He senses that understanding will always be expected of him, while accommodation will rarely be possible from her side, not because she's a bad woman, but because her life is already full. Her energy is divided, her attention is stretched, her priorities are fixed, and he knows it. He might admire her strength, respect her resilience, be attracted to her maturity, but underneath that admiration is a quiet internal question he can't ignore. Am I ready to carry responsibilities I didn't choose in a life that won't fully choose me back? Because the moment he steps in, he isn't just dating a woman. He's stepping into her schedule, her emotional load, her past decisions, her ongoing obligations. He's expected to understand immediately, to adapt quickly, to prove patience early. And all of this happens before he even knows if the relationship has real potential. That imbalance exhausts men faster than most people realize. The relationship hasn't even started, and already he feels behind. Already he feels like the one adjusting. Already he senses that if something goes wrong, the cost will land on him. This is where the disconnect begins. Men want relationships that feel balanced, not heroic. They want peace, not constant negotiation. They want to build something together, not be inserted into something that already exists. And when they see that their role will be supportive but never central, helpful but never foundational, they pull back, quietly. No speeches, no accusations, just distance. The modern man isn't heartless. He isn't running from responsibility. He's running from situations where responsibility comes without authority, effort without appreciation, and sacrifice without long-term security. He wants a life that feels fair, a relationship where he matters, a future he can shape, not just maintain. And when he realizes that dating a single mother often means stepping into a world where he will always be optional but never free, he makes the only decision that protects his time, his energy, and his future. He walks away before the cost becomes permanent. That's the reality no one wants to say out loud.
What deepens this hesitation is not a single moment, but a growing realization that settles in as the relationship progresses. At first, he tells himself he's overthinking it, that he just needs time to adjust, that every relationship comes with compromises. But the more time he spends inside her world, the clearer the pattern becomes. Their lifestyles move on entirely different frequencies. He's used to making decisions freely, last-minute plans, quiet evenings when he wants them, spontaneous weekends, the ability to say yes or no without coordinating half a dozen variables. Her life, by necessity, runs on structure. School schedules, custody arrangements, babysitters, emergencies that can appear without warning. None of this is her fault, but it is her reality, and it immediately becomes his problem too. He suggests a midweek dinner and learns it's not possible. He plans a short getaway and discovers it requires weeks of advance planning. He wants uninterrupted time together and realizes her attention is constantly divided, her phone buzzing with reminders, updates, responsibilities that always outrank him. Slowly, it dawns on him that he isn't dating a person in the way he once understood dating. He's dating a system that existed long before he arrived and will continue running exactly the same whether he's there or not. That realization changes how a man feels at a fundamental level. Men value peace more than excitement. They value predictability more than chaos. They value a life that flows, not one that constantly stalls. And when every moment must be negotiated, rescheduled, or compromised, the relationship starts to feel less like connection and more like administration. He begins to feel like a visitor rather than a partner, someone being fit into whatever space remains after everything else is handled. Over time, this creates a quiet tension that affection alone can't erase. Then comes the emotional side, which drains men even faster. By the time he enters her life, she is already tired, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. She's been carrying responsibilities for years: work, parenting, bills, worries about the future, concerns about her children, lingering resentment or unresolved emotions from her previous relationship. All of that weight is already on her shoulders, and no matter how much she likes him, there simply isn't much left over. Men feel this immediately. Instead of emotional reciprocity, he often receives emotional fatigue. Instead of playful connection, he gets seriousness. Instead of building something new together, he feels like he's helping her survive something old. Conversations lean heavily towards stress, logistics, and problems. He becomes a listener, a supporter, a stabilizer, long before he ever feels like a lover or an equal. And here is where something inside a man starts to shut down. Men want to feel chosen, not needed. They want to feel desired, not recruited. They want connection, not counseling. When a man senses that he's being leaned on for stability more than embraced for who he is, the dynamic shifts. The relationship becomes work before it ever becomes joy.
He tries to express this at first, carefully, cautiously. He mentions feeling like there's no space for him. He hints that everything feels heavy. Often, the response is that she's doing her best, and she probably is. But effort doesn't change imbalance. Understanding doesn't refill emotional reserves that are already empty. Slowly, he starts to feel drained before the relationship even deepens. What really seals the decision for many men, though, is not the present discomfort. It's the future they can already see forming. Men think forward instinctively. They imagine what life will look like years down the road, and when they project that future with a single mother, it often feels restrictive. He sees years of adjusting his goals to fit into a structure that was never built with him in mind. He imagines financial responsibility expanding while authority remains limited. He sees an ex who will always be part of the picture, influencing decisions, schedules, and boundaries.
He imagines sacrifices that fall almost entirely on him. Travel plans delayed or canceled, career opportunities passed up, moves to new cities becoming impossible, personal ambitions slowly shrinking to accommodate a life that prioritizes everyone else first. The fear isn't responsibility itself. Men aren't afraid of hard work. They're afraid of loss. Loss of freedom, loss of time, loss of dreams they haven't lived yet. There's also a quiet, unspoken insecurity that men rarely admit, the silent comparison. No matter how supportive he is, no matter how present, the past is always in the room. The children are a permanent link to another man. History sits at the dinner table. It rides in the back seat. It shows up in messages about pickup times and school events. Even if she never compares him out loud, he feels the shadow. He wonders if his patience is measured against the father of her kids, if his decisions are weighed against someone who came before him, if parts of her heart are still tied to a chapter he can never erase. And he knows he can't talk about this without being labeled insecure or controlling, so he stays silent, and that silence turns into distance. Men want a clean slate. They want to build something new, not compete with ghosts. They want to feel like the first choice, not the next option in a life already shaped by someone else. When they realize they'll always be navigating around a past they didn't create, resentment begins to grow quietly. At some point, a man reaches a moment of clarity. Not dramatic, not emotional, just honest. He sees that staying means shrinking, that his role will always be adjustment, not leadership, that his effort will always outweigh the reward, and that the relationship, no matter how much potential it seemed to have, will never feel fully his. So he steps back. Not because she's a bad woman, not because he hates kids, not because he's afraid of responsibility, but because he finally understands what the path ahead demands and what it takes away from him. He chooses peace over pressure, clarity over chaos, a future he can shape over a life he must constantly fit into. And once a man reaches that understanding, no amount of chemistry can pull him back in. He doesn't argue, he doesn't explain, he simply stops moving forward, because he already knows how the story ends.
By the time a man reaches this point, his decision is already made. Not emotionally, but internally. Something has clicked, and once it does, it cannot be unseen. He understands that staying is not about love anymore. It's about whether the life in front of him allows him to remain himself. This is the part most people misunderstand. Men do not walk away from single mothers in anger. They walk away in silence. Not because the woman is unworthy, but because the situation is unwinnable for them. There is no version of the relationship where he gets to be fully present, fully valued, and fully prioritized. No matter how good his intentions are, no matter how patient he is, no matter how much he gives, the structure of the relationship always places him on the outside looking in. He eventually realizes that his role is fixed. He can contribute, but he cannot lead. He can support, but he cannot shape. He can sacrifice, but he cannot expect the same sacrifices in return. His time will always be flexible. Her time will never be. His needs will always be negotiable. Hers are not. His future will always be adjustable. Hers is already defined. That realization doesn't feel dramatic. It feels sobering. He starts asking himself questions he can no longer ignore. What happens if I invest years into this and it ends? What do I walk away with? What do I lose? What do I gain? And the answers are rarely reassuring. He sees a future where he gives deeply, bonds with children who may be taken from him overnight, pours resources into a life that can be dismantled without his consent, and walks away with nothing but memories and exhaustion. Men are not afraid of responsibility. They are afraid of asymmetry. They want effort to be matched, sacrifice to be mutual, commitment to be reciprocal, and when they see that the balance will always tilt against them, they choose to protect themselves instead of hoping things will magically change.
This is why men today walk away earlier than before. They no longer wait until they are burned out, resentful, or trapped. They've learned from watching others. They've learned from their fathers, their friends, their coworkers. They've seen men lose years of their lives trying to make situations work that were never designed to work for them. So they leave before attachment turns into obligation. This doesn't mean single mothers are bad women. Many are strong, loving, resilient, and deeply devoted. But strength does not erase structure. Love does not undo logistics, and good intentions do not cancel out long-term cost. Men want to build something that belongs to both people equally, a life where choices are made together, a future where sacrifices move in both directions, a relationship where he is not an accessory, not a helper, not a stabilizer, but a partner. And most single mothers, through no fault of their own, cannot offer that starting point. Their time is divided. Their priorities are fixed. Their past is permanent. Their flexibility is limited. Men see this clearly now, and instead of trying to force themselves into lives that were never built for them, they choose differently. They choose women who have room. They choose relationships that feel lighter, not heavier. They choose futures where they can grow instead of constantly adjusting. This is not cruelty. This is clarity. Men are not rejecting single mothers out of immaturity or fear. They are responding to incentives, risks, and realities the same way anyone would when the cost outweighs the reward. For the first time in a long time, men are no longer apologizing for wanting peace. They are no longer ashamed of protecting their time, their energy, and their future. They are no longer willing to sacrifice themselves for relationships that demand more than they give. And that is the truth most people don't want to accept. Men are not done with love. They are done with imbalance. They are done starting relationships at a disadvantage. They are done inheriting problems they didn't create. They are done shrinking themselves to fit into lives that leave no space for them. So they walk away early, quietly, decisively. Not because they don't care, but because they finally do.